Welcome to Our Curious Amalgam, the weekly podcast brought to you by the Antitrust Law Section of the American Bar Association. Our Curious Amalgam explores the fascinating and increasingly overlapping world of competition, consumer protection, data protection, and privacy law. Each week, we bring you leading global experts on the most compelling issues of the day. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to a very special edition of Our Curious Amalgam. I'm Alicia Downey. The annual spring meeting of the ABA Antitrust Law Section is the premier event of the antitrust and consumer protection law world. At the 2023 meeting, the Our Curious Amalgam team recorded interviews with more than a dozen leaders of competition agencies from all over the world. We asked each of them about their current enforcement priorities, what enforcement trends they see on the horizon, and tips for practitioners representing parties under investigation. We also got to know our guests a little bit better on a personal level. The title of today's episode is What's Happening in Greenland, Armenia, and Latvia? Conversations with Competition Law Enforcers at the 2023 Spring Meeting. In the 1970s, there were only 12 jurisdictions with independent antitrust and competition law enforcement agencies. Today, there are over 130. In this episode, we are talking with enforcers who work for 3 small but growing competition agencies. The first of these is in Greenland. Matt Michalowski talks with Kristina Nordby, the head of the board of the Greenlandic Consumer and Competition Authority.
My name is Matt Michalowski, and with me is a special guest, Kristina Nordby, Chief of the Greenlandic Consumer and Competition Authority. Welcome, Kristina.
Thank you.
So Kristina has a Master in Law from Copenhagen University. From 1999 to 2020, she worked in the area of workers' comp and labor inspection. She has been living and working in Greenland since 2007, working for the Danish government and for the Greenlandic self-government in the Consumer and Competition Authority. Kristina, I have to ask before we get into the substance, what was the weather like in Nuuk when you left?
It was minus 6 degrees Celsius, a lot of snow.
So you have a very unique environment, and I assume a very, very unique perspective on competition enforcement, given the unique needs. So tell us, though, what is the top priority for your organization looking forward?
First of all, thank you for inviting me, and thank you for the question. First of all, I want to explain that Greenland has 60,000 inhabitants, living spread out on a coastline corresponding to a stretch between North of America down to Mexico City. So it's really spread out. And I'm responsible for 10 different legal areas, and I have 3 lawyers working with consumer law, competition law, and public tender procedures. So maybe I'm a director in the smallest and most geographically isolated consumer and competition authority in the world. Do you know the Jamaican bobsled team?
I do. I'm familiar with that from a wonderful film on the topic. That is a lot on your plate to manage all that, I assume, with such a small staff and so many different things to handle.
Yeah, we are a very small authority, and we have very limited resources, so we must adjust our plans when reality hits us. For example, if we receive 2 merger control cases at the same time, then our long-term plans will go on standby for a while. Although in the upcoming year, we are planning to prioritize a market analysis according to grocery sale to private consumers. There is a political focus on food prices in Europe according to the inflation, and the politicians want to make sure that the stores don't use inflation to overcharge the food detriment of consumers. In Greenland, we also have a limited selection of stores, and the inhabitants cannot drive to another city for shopping due to no roads between Greenlandic cities. Because the Greenlandic people are living very isolated in towns and villages, even rather small stores can have something akin to a dominant position in the village or town. This can make consumers are equally vulnerable compared to largest countries with roads between the cities. So another priority in our organization will be tourism, a new airport with a longer runway in Nuuk and Ilulissat is expected soon, and that will open for new operators, and maybe we will see a new travel pattern in the Greenlandic market.
I, for one, would be quite keen to visit your country after seeing the beautiful pictures you've just shown me. So tell us what trends are developing in competition law in Greenland.
Yeah, as I said, when the new airports are completed, we do expect some international airlines to enter the Greenlandic market and create a greater degree of competition. As it is now, it's only Air Greenland and Icelandair who are flying in and out of Greenland. So this area hasn't been subject to much competition before, so that's going to be a new market situation, which we expect to monitor carefully. We also expect that the new airport could cause the capital city, Nuuk, to grow rapidly. It had grown rapidly, but more rapidly, with a lot of construction work and new hotels and many different tourist operators, restaurants and shops. And then we must investigate the growing new market for eventual infringements of the Greenlandic competition law.
What advice would you have for practitioners before the competition authority or who are otherwise trying to present advocacy to you? How can they be successful?
Since we are a small market, everybody have to be aware of how competition is important to a healthy and growing society. Even in our sparsely populated country, in the net lights, I'm advising the practitioners to cooperate, being transparent, and understand that competition is essential for having a well-functioned market that benefits the economy in a broad spectrum and thereby the whole country.
Thank you for that information, Kristina, about a jurisdiction that probably many competition lawyers have thought little about, but it's quite fascinating. So tell us now, what do you do when you're not protecting consumers in Greenland?
First of all, in Scandinavia, we have 6 weeks paid vacation every year. So we love to travel, and most often we travel to U.S. because my husband is from Virginia. And we enjoy scuba diving, and one of my wildest accomplishments was diving with whale sharks, hammerhead sharks, and all kinds of other sharks in Galapagos. That was really a peak in my diving career. I was absolutely amazed to jump in the water and be surrounded with sharks that didn't bother my appearance or my presence at all. At home, we have long winters, so we play board games. The newest one is actually American. It's Frosthaven, which is a cooperative legacy game in a fantasy world. Maybe it sounds pretty geeky, but it's a good way to relax and be focused on something other than work. And even though a very nice way to spend time with family and friends.
I don't think there are any competition lawyers that don't have some geeky interest. So that's quite all right. And my gosh, living in Greenland and swimming in the Galapagos, the extremes of temperature, what an exciting life you lead. And thank you for sharing it with us.
Thank you.
In our next segment, Kayla Odom finds out what's happening in Armenia.
My name is Kayla Odom, and today I'm speaking with Gegham Gevorgyan, the chairman of the Armenian Competition Protection Commission. Welcome, Chairman Gevorgyan.
Thank you.
To give our listeners a little bit of background, the Armenian Competition Protection Commission was established in 2001 with the purpose of implementing state policy in the sphere of economic competition protection. The scope of its authority includes merger control, anti-competitive agreements, monopolistic practices, unfair competition, and state aid. Gevorgyan has been the chairman since 2019. This podcast is Our Curious Amalgam, and we're curious about our international enforcers. Could you tell us a little bit about the Armenian Competition Protection Commission in your words, and what the Commission's top priorities are in terms of enforcement this year?
Thank you for the invitation. Yes, as you mentioned, our agency established in 2001, and our priorities, I think, it's in line with international priorities. For the next year, the Competition Protection Commission has a strong focus on several crucial fields such as consumer protection, combating late payments, continuing our commitment to judicial issues, and further digitalization the Commission activities. Let me briefly reflect on them. There is currently no single state body responsible for the overall protection of consumer interests in Armenia. Consequently, it is often challenging for consumers to identify the appropriate authority to address violations of their interests. Therefore, we are planning to enhance the Commission's mandate and fill this gap in order to duly address the interests and needs of consumers, as well as to raise consumer welfare standards in our country. In recent years, the Commission studied thoroughly supply chains, and among number of issues recorded an excessive late payment issue in the market. Thus, another priority field for the Commission is combating excessive payment delays, or so-called late payments, which negatively impact the economic viability of suppliers. To that end, such practice should be prohibited. Notably, this is a relatively new stream direction for competition authorities worldwide, and we are now drafting necessary legal bases addressing the issue based on already generated international best practice. Another priority to highlight is our commitment to digital issues. Digitalization has totally reshaped dynamics in the economy, creating new markets and transforming existing ones, presenting a multi-phase challenge for competition authorities. Thus, the digital economy in all its forms and protection of competition theory remains one of the Commission's priorities for action. Lastly, the Commission is actively working on the digitalization of its activities. In the digital age, where technology and innovation have revolutionized many sectors, we should make significant efforts to keep pace with development. Much effort has been made by the Commission in this regard. We launched the eCompete case management electronic platform, which is interoperable with the database of other state authorities. The platform has significantly simplified the workload and raised overall efficiency of Commission's activities. However, we aim to make a long-term commitment to continuously improve the digital platform, even utilizing artificial intelligence algorithms in the analysis carried out by the Commission.
Thank you. It sounds like you have a busy agenda, a lot to cover. What would you say is the most important trend that you see developing in competition law enforcement in Armenia in the near future?
I think the world is rapidly changing due to globalization, digitalization, and accelerated knowledge, creating a highly interconnected global economy. And as I mentioned in the framework of previous question, these factors, especially digitalization, has totally reshaped and still reshaping dynamics in the economy. As a result, acting for the proper competitive functioning of digital markets is precisely the most important trend for us in the near future. The increasing complexity of the issues and the diverse range of activities involved in digital markets require a long-term commitment. Therefore, the Commission is vigilant with regard to this in both its antitrust and its advisory capacity. Another important trend that comes to mind is the discussion around the competitive landscape in relation to the implementation of environmental, social, and government ESG policies by businesses.
Yes, I think, globally, everybody has that on the top of their minds, and, it's definitely a trend right now. So it's good to hear that Armenia is also considering these issues. What advice do you have for practitioners who want to be effective in front of your organization?
Implementing preventive measures, including continuous awareness raising and constant dialogue between the competition authority and business entities, is crucial to success. I believe that this approach is often more effective than the use of enforcement mechanism. My main advice and the message for business is to implement antitrust compliance policy as a genuine ethical commitment that will enable the company to better manage risks and avoid competition law infringements. It is crucial for business representatives to understand the essence and value of competition law and its compliance, and to make non-violation of competition a work ethic. Failure to adhere to the rules to fair competition will ultimately not help, but rather harm their business in long term.
That's great advice, and getting initiatives within these organizations so that everybody is aware of the requirements and the best practices and best policies, transparency, all important things to keep in mind. My final question, I would like to sort of switch gears a little bit, just to get to know you a little bit more. Do you have any interesting hobbies or accomplishments outside of competition law that you'd like to share with us?
Oh yeah, well, I believe hobbies play an essential role in making our everyday life more colorful and well-rounded, enabling us to achieve a work-life balance. One of my hobbies is following the development of artificial intelligence research and development. It is mind-blowing that what was once a fantasy is now an acknowledged reality, and it is hard to imagine how artificial intelligence will change our lives in the future. And this prompts me to be curious and ask myself, will artificial intelligence ever become conscious?
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean...
That's the question.
I hope not, but...
Who knows?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Chairman Gevorgyan.
Thank you very much.
I hope you enjoy your visit and have safe travels back home.
Thank you.
Our last segment is my conversation with Kārlis Piģēns, a member of the Competition Council of the Republic of Latvia. As a result of new legislation enacted in 2021, the Latvian Competition Council significantly expanded its jurisdiction, gained new powers, and increased the number of council members from 3 to 5. Kārlis Piģēns himself is one of the newest appointees, having begun his term in 2022.
With me today is Kārlis Piģēns from the Latvian Competition Authority, and we have a few questions for you today. And the first one we want to ask is, what is your authority's top priority for this coming year?
I would mention that this is the first year of the operation of the Competition Council as an independent authority. We have strengthening existing resources and developing technological investigative tools to ensure more effective investigations of competition infringements. And the Competition Council now work in the 3 main areas, and that's detecting and preventing competition distortions, strengthening and growing the capacity of Competition Council in Latvia, and promoting awareness of free and fair competition. And there are 5 priority tasks for this year. And the first is fair competition in public procurement. And according to the data of the public opinion poll conducted last year and the practice of our Competition Council, there are 2 major problems in the field of competition in Latvia, and that are collusion or cartels in procurement and distortions of competition created by public entities or state and local governments, which create unequal conditions of competition, discriminate or exclude entrepreneurs from the market. And also in this year, the Competition Council will devote significant resources to preventing distortions of competition in public procurement. Second task for this year would be state and local government involvement in the market and the respect for the principle of neutrality. The Competition Council will devote significant resources to supervision of Latvian public entities, state and local level, which has been on the agenda of the Competition Council since 2020, when amendments to the competition law entered into force, giving the Competition Council broader powers to address distortions of competition caused by public entities. And also Competition Council will continue to use the negotiation procedure to remedy breaches of neutrality, which ensures an immediate change of behavior and immediate benefits for society. And also, in order to educate public entities and provide them with recommendations for market conduct, the Competition Council will produce summaries by sector or industry, highlighting the key findings and issues arising from these public entities' involvement in various markets. Our third priority for this year is monitoring markets with significant impact on economy. And we have planned to monitor markets that are experiencing rapid development or innovation, such as digital markets. And also last year, the Digital Market Act was adopted, and with for a fair and competitive digital industry at the EU level. And these new rules regulate and restrict the activities of large digital platforms, ensuring fair playing field for users and consumers in digital field. And that systemic cooperation and exchange of information on potential infringements with the European Commission and national competition authorities in this year is expected ahead.
Oh, great. Well, everybody we have spoken to has pointed to the digital markets as being of core concern currently and probably for the foreseeable future. In addition to that, though, are there other sectors or types of behavior that you think will be a trend in the near future?
Yes, I think that, of course, digital markets and technology sector, it's a very new and developing sector, and digital markets present unique challenges, of course, for law enforcement, and they involve a lot of network effects, economics, but other trend, I think it's also that it's increasing cooperation among competition authorities across borders, and that's in a lot of sectors, because economy is getting more global and becomes more interconnected, and it's increasingly important to antitrust agencies to cooperate on their efforts and share information so we can combat this anti-competitive behavior.
Now that you've come to the spring meeting, you've met competition practitioners from all over Europe and all over the world. What advice do you have for them if they happen to have a party, or they represent a party that has an issue or a matter before the council in Latvia?
I would say that they must be active and stay focused. I would say that with a big exclamation mark, because competition rights as rights in general are very dynamic because of life in modern society, and the things develop very fast. Also develops IT infrastructure and IT possibilities, and competition rights must keep up with this. Could we even thought 20 years ago that after 20 years we will discuss at global level questions about market in digital environment, dominance of social network services, like Meta questions, Google questions. I think that practitioners must be active in their work, be up to date with actions related to competition questions to be effective, and to be competition guards every day. So,
is there anything specific they should do to make your life easier as a member of the council, and to help your colleagues in the adjudicative process?
I think that it's very important that they keep up with trends, keep up with modern theories, keep up with case law at the European Union level, and maybe some cases there are also useful information about US or Canada practice. So I think that's a must-have thing.
Great. Now, before we let you go, we would like to ask you the question we're asking all of the international enforcers here at the spring meeting, and that's to tell us something personal about yourself, so we get to know you at that level. Is there anything interesting or fun that you do when you're not doing competition law?
I could mention that in competition law, in that specific time, as a council member, I get accepted 3 months ago, and before that, last 12 years, I worked with questions related to energy issues at national and international level. Of course, that was also related to competition, but not that deep. And I also was involved in gas market liberalization in Latvia and the common gas market creation in Baltic region. That was a very interesting experience, and also after 2 months I will get my PhD in law science, and my theme is about ownership features and developments in the use of subterranean deeps in Latvia.
Wow. So if you're doing a PhD and you're on the council, you have no time to have any fun.
I like cycling, and that's one of my most biggest hobby, to go cycling. In COVID time, I cycled all about across Latvia.
Wow.
And after 1 month with my friend, we have planned to go cycled for 2 weeks in Scandinavia. So that we will be first time abroad with bicycle.
Well, good. That's a great way to take your mind off all of your work. Thank you so much for being on Our Curious Amalgam.
Thank you for taking me. Thank you.
That's all for this episode. Thank you to all of our guests, and thank you to my co-hosts, Matt Mikulowski and Kayla Odom. We'll be featuring interviews with many other international enforcers in future episodes of Our Curious Amalgam. So if you're curious about what they have to say, listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Our Curious Amalgam, a competition, consumer protection, data protection, and privacy law podcast. It is produced and shared around the globe by ABA's Antitrust Law Section. The opinions expressed by the participants in this podcast are their own and do not necessarily represent their employer or other organizations. If you like what you heard or would like to become a member of the American Bar Association, please check out what the Antitrust Section has to offer at ambar.org/antitrust. You can learn more about our podcast at ourcuriousamalgam.com. If you have comments, suggestions, or podcast ideas, please reach out to us at podcast@ourcuriousamalgam.com. Until next time, thank you for listening.